What's up, everyone? Going live for our Get Educated here. I got Rob Pincus here with me. I'm going to try and get his to show up. All right, I've got him, and I just need to push the filter back out so he can see what we're seeing. How do I do that again? Let's see. Filter. Filters. Virtual cam. Oh, you know what? It's over here in Skype. That's what it is. Actually, let me restart and call you right back, Rob.
Standing by.
All right, hang on, everybody. So I know you can see him, but he wasn't able to see us. So while I'm calling him back, let's go over our rules here. Treat all firearms as if they're loaded. Never point the firearm at anything you're not willing to kill, destroy, or purchase. Keep your finger somewhere other than the trigger until your sights are on target. You made the conscious decision to shoot. And be sure of what is in front of, behind, to the left, or the right of your target. So today's is going to be about responsibilities of the new gun owner. And I thought it would be great to bring Rob in on this. And let me get this going. There we go. Start. That's why. Okay. Now let's try it. I didn't need to disconnect from him, actually. Let's call him back. There we go. Now you can see me. Perfect. All right, so I already went over our typical, four firearms safety rules. What I wanted to do, as I talked to you before, my apologies for my audio because I left my good mic at home, so I'm using the camera mic. Wanted to go over, because of all this COVID-19 stuff, probably 80% of our customers have been new firearms owners. So to the point where people come in and they say, I never thought I had to buy anything until now.
Right.
So we do the best we can in order to give them some information, and to always tell them to come back for any basic knowledge. And I figured you would be a great person to kind of talk about the, like we discussed, a new firearms owner responsibilities.
Yeah. Shit, you having me on, man. There's obviously a lot of new gun owners. There's a lot of people who, have had guns, probably that maybe they just had them for recreation or somebody gave them one and they may not have taken it too seriously, that all of a sudden, with a pandemic and who, especially back in March when we really had no idea what this was going to look like as we went forward, might have started thinking about their guns in a different way. And, this is going to live on the internet forever and there's going to be new gun owners forever. So I think it's important to understand that me personally, right, and just for those of you in the audience who aren't familiar with me, I run Personal Defense Network. See that up on the screen, personaldefensenetwork.com. We've been creating content, not just me, but a team of instructors from around the world in all areas of personal defense and self-defense since 2005. Originally delivered through a DVD series, and then starting in 2010, we started streaming it. I run a training company that certifies instructors all around the world, and I wrote the live fire curriculum for the United States Concealed Carry Association. So, I've been working on this problem for decades of training new gun owners and even experienced gun owners who were new to the idea of armed defense and the responsibilities and the new skill sets and the other things that come with that. And I've decided that it's really important to stress, especially for the brand new gun owner, that when someone says, what's the first thing a new gun owner needs to learn or needs to know, I think it's the number one rule of responsible gun ownership that's the most important to focus on. And that rule is you are responsible for preventing unauthorized access to your guns. Let's think about that. That has nothing to do with bad guys, has nothing to do with terrorism, has nothing to do with where you shoot someone in the body or trigger control or sight alignment, sight picture, or even the 4 firearm safety rules. Really, it's a much bigger picture thing. You are responsible for preventing unauthorized access to your gun. Well, who is that, right? Let's think about who are the people who are unauthorized to access the gun. Well, anybody with criminal or malicious intent, that'd be an obvious one. You want to keep the guns from them. Somebody who's not mentally capable of understanding the ramifications of handling a lethal tool, and that could be a mental deficiency, it could be a mental health challenge, it could be just lack of information, lack of knowledge. It could be somebody who's not educated in how to use a gun or what happens if you use a gun inappropriately. And it also could be someone who's not physically capable of controlling the gun. There was a story probably 4 or 5 years ago of a place, I think it was out in Nevada, where somebody was renting machine gun experiences so that you could pull up to the range, pay some money, and shoot a machine gun for, as a recreational experience. Obviously, that was supposed to have been a supervised endeavor. The problem was the instructor gave the gun to somebody who wasn't able to physically control it. They held the trigger down, and the recoil brought the gun up, and the shooter actually put a round into the head of the person who was supposed to be supervising them, killing them tragically. When you think about that, whose fault is that? Well, that's the fault of the person who gave the gun to somebody who wasn't able to physically control it. Now, maybe they could have physically controlled it if they were taught how to in a better way, right? So when we think about this, what does that mean? That means if you haven't learned how to use your gun well, if you aren't trained in how to physically and mentally and intellectually use your gun, you're on the unauthorized list, right? You could own a gun, but not really be justified in putting bullets in it and thinking you could just go out into the, go out into the sticks or something and go out on this national forest property, or some buddy of yours has private land out on a farm and you're just going to go shoot with your friends. Well, that's your right. Right. And I want to be very clear, especially for New York residents like your customers, I'm assuming mostly are. I'm not talking about the government restrictions. I'm not talking about mandated training. I'm talking about someone meeting their responsibility to exercise their Second Amendment rights appropriately and responsibly and safely. Right. So that's really where I come down on this. You have a responsibility to make sure that nobody who shouldn't be messing around with that gun is messing around with it. And if you haven't gotten training, that includes you. Now, that doesn't mean you have to spend thousands of dollars and go to week-long courses, but you do have to get some supervised education in how to use the gun. And I'm assuming that at Allstar Tactical, you guys are making sure that, to your knowledge, nobody's leaving that building without having at least the basic ideas of how that gun operates safely. But of course, there's a big difference between just philosophically and theoretically understanding the technical aspects of the gun, maybe even from reading the manual, and then going and getting that experience on the live fire range. So I would encourage any new gun owner to get some supervised experience, training, practice, whatever you want to call it, on the range before they consider themselves off of that unauthorized list.
So, yeah, I agree with that, and that's great information. To give them some actual knowledge to sort of maybe refer back to this and to come back to my intro to concealed carry kind of curriculum that I wrote, begins and starts off with basically safety, storage, and that access prevention. So what would you suggest then to people watching, first time, way to secure their firearm just in their own home or even in their vehicle?
I think a quick access, what I refer to as a quick access safe, is the best option, right? So you can get the big heavy duty, I've got one 10 feet from me here, a big wall safe with the pad or the combination, and then you ka-chunk and you open it up, that kind of a thing. That's really a storage device. A quick access safe is something that has either push buttons, maybe a quick dial that you put 2 or 3 or 4 numbers in, or 3 or 4 numbers in. Maybe it's got some buttons with shapes on top, or like the gun vaults that have the finger grooves. Maybe a biometric scanner. That's something that's very popular now. They've come a long way in terms of reading your fingerprints on a release a lock. The other option is an RFID activated lock. So you have a key fob or a card that when you bring it near the safe, it unlocks the gun.
Or an implant in your hand that also is RFID.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go pretty extreme if you want. But actually, I'm going to change the camera angle here because I actually had my computer sitting on it. This one is actually one that's manufactured in New York. Right, and this would, there you go, you've got one right there. So this is a pretty cool device that I've been checking out. They really are very new to the market. They're the newest device that I've experienced on the market that I've been trying to check out and see if it's something new gun owners or experienced gun owners might want to look look at. But my point being, there are plenty of new devices out there. There are plenty of established devices and the reason I like a quick access safe is because you have to assume, if you're watching me talk about guns, you're probably interested in armed defense. You're not just a hunter. You're not just a competition shooter. You're not just a recreational shooter. You're not just a gun collector. You absolutely own a gun with the idea that you could, and in some cases very well should, be able to use it to defend yourself or others, people that you care about. That means you don't want to lock the gun in a safe or disassemble it and store the ammunition in one room and half the gun in your closet and half the gun locked up in a safe that it takes you 60 seconds to open. You want something that can secure the gun from unauthorized access or unauthorized use, but also allow you to get access to the gun as quickly as possible. And one of the most important tips that I give people is when you put the gun in that box, you want to make sure that that trigger is covered. You don't want to have a loaded gun in a box that you're going to be going to in a rush, you know, when you're scared, maybe panicked, maybe anxious, you got a lot going on, families screaming, dogs barking, the alarm's going off, the bad guy is coming. You want to open that gun box. You don't want to reach in and hit the trigger on a loaded gun. So either keep the gun unloaded or keep the gun in a holster or get like a trigger safe, trigger cover device, something that's going to allow you to make sure that you can reach into that box and get a hold of the gun without hitting the trigger. The other important thing that you remember is what you can do is you can then take that. Let's say that I was going to use this holster inside of the box. I could take a lanyard, put it around the clip that would normally go on my belt. I can slip this in there. So now I've got this actually secured to the box, and what that means is when I reach in to grab the gun, I can pull the gun and the holster will stay behind. So I don't need two hands to grab this and remove the holster from the gun. You know, that's something else that's important to remember. I can actually put this in there. So the idea is if this is secured to the box, when I reach into the box, I grab the gun, the holster stays behind. If it weren't secured, when I reach in, I pick it up and I have to physically remove the holster with my other hand, and that just creates more complication than we need.
Crossbreed actually makes one with Velcro backing that they sent me for off-body carry that would probably work well for that.
Absolutely works great. It's the OHI, they call them the OHI modules, OHAI, and those are designed to fit on the devices that they have that insert into bag. Any of the carry bags that
I have one inside my bag here.
Just like that. Yeah. Perfect. And those also, they also sell ones that are a little bit slimmer, more low profile, that work with the Crossbreed holster belly band that I actually co-designed with them. That's the IC training company, Crossbreed holster belly band. We've been selling for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. It's a very popular holster, and what you can actually do there, what's nice about it is the Velcro system that holds the module with the gun to the band. When you undo that, you can then put the gun directly into a bag like you just showed, or into a safe or any storage area without unholstering the gun. So you're able to take the gun from your body into the box, from the box into a bag, from the bag back into the box or back onto your body, all without having to unholster it and reholster it constantly. Which, if you have like let's say you have a storage lockbox in your car or in your workplace because you're going to go into the bank, you're going to go pick your kids up from school, or you're going to go somewhere where you can't take the gun with you, it's really nice when you're sitting in the car to not have to take the gun out of the holster and expose the trigger, or be messing around with the gun while you're sitting down. So you just remove the, like I just did right here, I remove the whole, this is a Crossbreed also, this is one of the leather, and you know, the hybrid holster is the Kydex and leather. I can take the clip off, now I can take this whole thing, put it in a box, and then put it back on without having to unholster the gun. That's definitely the kind of system that you want to be running whenever you can.
One of the big things I tell a lot of, especially new handgun owners, is one of the most dangerous times is in and out of the holster. And we've seen it on the range, people, you know, accidental discharges on the range, negligent discharges. So even when going to take a dump, you know, it's always like take the whole holster off is the safest way to get it off your body.
Yep, and that means clips or paddles or snaps, as opposed to just like, I don't even know if I have a holster around here, with just loops that you put your belt through. Now, you can always take your belt all the way off and take the belt loop holster off also, but that's a little bit more cumbersome. So remember, the simpler you can make it, right? And I know we're talking about new gun owners, that means you've already bought a gun, but even when it comes to the gun, the simpler you can make it, right? Less levers, less buttons, The same thing goes for your holster. The same thing goes for your quick access safe. You want it to be simple. Remember, especially for a defensive gun, you don't want to make it hard to make that gun to go bang. You want it to be very simple to make the gun go bang when you need it. And that's counterintuitive to some new gun owners. They think, well, I want the safety and I want 6 locks and I want to keep the gun unloaded, or maybe I want to carry the gun without a round in the chamber because that's somehow safer. Well, if you're not ready to carry a gun with a round in the chamber, then you're just not ready to carry a gun.
Absolutely.
You know, it'd be like owning a car, but I'm not ready to drive it yet. I'm just going to sit it in the driveway and I'm not going to put gas in it. Someday I might get up to that, but right now, no gas. If I want to drive, I'll call my brother. He'll bring a tank over, and that way I'm really, I'm safer that way. Not how it works.
Right. So a couple things I wanted you to touch on also is, we have colleagues like Craig Douglas and some people we know that I'd love to get Craig on here, but can you touch a little bit on just, even bringing that gun to a situation? A lot of people may not even understand that, the de-escalation and the avoidance part of the equation.
So Craig runs a great block of instruction called Managing Unknown Contacts. I mentioned Personal Defense Network earlier. Craig's actually one of our contributing instructors. You can see some of Craig's material at personaldefensenetwork.com. I would type in encroachment or de-escalation or managing unknown contacts in the search bar at personaldefensenetwork.com, and you'll be able to see some of the information we're talking about. And really what it comes down to is avoiding conflict or being as ready to deal with an aggressor or an attack as possible. Now, I teach from the standpoint of counter ambush from the beginning. I think you need to really understand, overwhelmingly, if you need to use a gun, you probably didn't see it coming, and that's why you need to use a gun. It's obviously better if you can see a potential attack coming and avoid it, right? If you see a guy pull into your front yard that thinks you're sleeping with his wife or thinks you got her fired from the job and she's got a shotgun and she racks it and says she's going to kill you, you don't go outside to talk about it, right? You lock the door, you go back into your room, you get your gun ready, but you don't run outside to confront him, right? Call the police, and hopefully you never have to shoot anybody. Well, the Managing Unknown Contacts block deals with a lot of that stuff. It's actually funny. Sometimes I take, and I've taught that stuff, and I've gone through those classes, and I get it. I understand the idea. If someone's coming towards you, and you can put your hands up and say, hey, buddy, if I can help you, let me know, or how can I help you, or hey, could you stop right there? The problem is, when we practice that stuff in a gymnasium or in a parking lot during a class, it really seems hokey. It's over the top, right? We don't generally get worried if somebody comes within 10, 12, or 5 or 6 feet of us. It happens all the time. If you're at the gas pumps, there's somebody walking around coming from their, from the convenience store, or they look like they're going towards the convenience store. They very may well end up within 5 or 10 feet. You don't generally stop someone from being that close to you. In a convenience store, walking down the sidewalk, obviously you're passing well within 5 or 10 feet of people normally. But in the times of Corona, guess what? Now all of a sudden we have this physical distance thing, this idea of social distancing. It's actually going to be easier to tell when someone is inappropriately close to you or when someone may have bad intentions, because now we're all used to this social bubble, right? This idea that we really do have this 5 or 6 foot buffer around us, and if somebody gets inside of that, immediately people are starting to get their hackles raised, right? And I'm seeing it in lines at stores. I'm seeing, I said chivalry's dying. I try to hold the door open for women, and they kind of hesitate, like they don't know if they're allowed to walk past me or not, So it's really interesting to see some of the managing unknown contacts, the social distancing, the encroachment, the avoidance stuff actually now being maybe easier to apply for some people. But there's a whole world of conflict avoidance, de-escalation, what we call pre-contact or pre-attack cues, things people do before they launch a physical attack. Like maybe look around for witnesses, or you'll see them fidget, maybe reach around, adjust if they have a knife or a gun they're about to pull. They may be touching it as they're walking up to you, hidden hands, all of these types of things. I think the other most important thing to talk about for new gun owners is this idea of should versus could. A lot of new gun owners ask the question very, sort of innocently. They say, well, when can I use a gun to shoot somebody? And I think if you think about it, that's a horrible verbal
Right.
imagery. That's horrible semantics. When can I shoot? Like it's what you want to do. So I always caution people about that. You're not, hopefully you don't want to shoot anybody. So it's not when can you shoot somebody. It's when should you use a gun. We talk about could versus should. Could is usually articulated as like the letter of the law, as if you're
Right,
going to
like
take a
Article 35 or use of force laws.
yeah, like, or, intent, opportunity,
Right.
and
Jeopardy.
and the means, right? So do they have the means to do it? Do they have the opportunity to do it? And do they have the intent to do it? Those are you in immediate jeopardy, right? And well, sometimes those things take years to figure out in court, right? Look at a case like the Zimmerman case, right? Like these cases take. Right now, we're talking about it with the Arbery case down in Georgia. Did that guy need to shoot him? Well, the legal question literally is going to take months or years to figure out. I promise you, you should use a gun to defend yourself or someone you care about if you perceive that you need to. And now all the education, all the awareness, all the things you can do up front to understand that moment. You may have heard this phrase, I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6.
Right.
And it's a very bravado, ego, kind of, shitty phrase to use as an attitude when you carry a gun around, because it sort of conveys this idea that you don't care about the law, you're going to do what you want. But if we break it down, assuming that's not what you mean, and that's not how you think, there is very much a real situation of, if I have a gun, right? So let's say that this is a real gun. I've got a real gun. I use this example because I travel internationally a lot. I'm in Paris, France. I cannot legally possess, touch, have this gun. But if this gun belonged to a police officer, and that police officer was just shot by a terrorist at a train station in Paris, should I break the law by picking this gun up and shoot the terrorist? The answer is yes. That's a violation of law in a foreign country, but it's absolutely what I should do, because the alternative is getting shot by the terrorist, right? Or watching other people get shot by the terrorist.
Sure.
So that's an example of should versus could. Could is the letter of the law, right? Should is what should you do under the circumstances. And trust me, it works the other way more often. And that's what I was saying. Like, if someone pulls up in your front yard with a shotgun, most states, you can easily articulate the perception of fear. They have the means to kill you. They have the opportunity to kill you. They're saying, I'm going to kill you, and they're getting ready to walk up to your house. You can, in almost every case, use a gun, shoot them through the window, open your door, say stop, and shoot them if they don't stop. You can do all that, but I say, why would you open the door?
Right.
Why would you expose yourself to risk? Why would you risk shooting and missing and hitting the street, and the bullet bounces off and kills your neighbor?
Right.
And that's happened. People have shot at people stealing their truck in the front yard and killed the person across the street. And I just don't think it's worth taking that risk. I think it's negligent, and what we really need to focus on is trying to avoid conflict and only using the gun when we absolutely need to.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to talk to you about, and then we'll let you give some people further places to go. Years ago, at one of the NRA conventions, it actually got a lot of press about the whole idea of securing a firearm in your children's room. And I wholeheartedly stood behind that, and so did my wife Erica. And you know her very well, and we're very much family people, and we're safe gun owners. And I think people need to understand a little bit behind that, and the idea of it is far beyond just throwing a safe in their bedroom. There's a whole mentality behind that.
Right. Yeah. No. Your family is awesome. You've honored me by letting me come into your home, and we've been friends for a long time. I've watched your kids for a long number of years, and I know that you guys really, obviously, are caring parents and caring gun owners. Here's the trick. When I say consider keeping a gun in your kid's room, that seems emotional and that seems provocative and it seems kind of crazy on the surface. Even to a room full of gun owners, I can be in a room at a USCCA convention, United States Concealed Carry Association, and I say that, people kind of look at each other like they're not sure what I'm talking about. Well, here's the deal. The baseline of that is when we recommend that you stage a gun. All this to put a gun in a quick access safe, that's called staging, as opposed to disassembling the gun and storing it in a big safe, right? So when you stage a gun, people say, well, where should I stage it? Well, there's two options. Option number one is where you're most likely to be. Option number two is where you're most likely to go. So if you're thinking about 3 a.m. and you sleep in your bedroom, well, with being woken up in the middle of the night by a potential attacker, you're most likely to be in your room. If you work at home in a home office and you're thinking about during the daytime, your home office is where you're most likely to be during the day. If you don't have a place that you're going to be when you're in your home other than your bedroom, you may say, well, my bedroom is still the place I'm most likely to go. But here's the problem for parents, and there's a lot of homes with split floor plans, right? Where it's like parents' bedroom on the main floor or parents' bedroom on one side of the house and the kids' bedrooms on the other side of the house. So think about it. You wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, the dog's barking, the alarm's going off, you have reason to believe there might be an intruder in your house, and you're a parent. Are you going to run to your bedroom and get your gun and your flashlight and your phone to call the police and then go check on your kids? Or are you more likely to go directly to your kids? Your kids are screaming for help. Are you more likely to go directly for your kids, or are you more likely to go get your gun first? And obviously, under those circumstances, 99.9% of the parents are instantly going to say, oh, yeah, I'd go check on my kids. Okay, so now put yourself in that situation. 2:30 in the morning, you have reason to believe there's an attacker or a potential threat in the house. You're in the kids' room. The kids are safe. And now, but the gun and the flashlight and the medical kit and the phone that you leave on a charger, all of that's in the other side of the house. Do you want to take your kids from a room that is safe for the moment and have to take them to go get that stuff? Well, that would seem silly. So what if you had a safe in your kid's bedroom that had the gun, the flashlight, the medical kit, an old cell phone? A lot of people don't know old cell phones that are off contract. As long as they can pick up a cell signal, you can still use them to make a 911 call. With our smartphones, even if you have one that's a generation or 2 or 3 old, if you have a security camera system like the Ring phones or the Nest or Wise or any of that, you can get on your internal Wi-Fi on a phone that's off a contract as well and see your security cameras and see your alarm system and know whether or not someone's in the house or where someone is in the house. So you can have an old phone with a wire running into your quick access safe, constantly charging, plus the gun, plus the medical kit, plus the flashlight, whatever else you want in there, all staged in your children's room. Then obviously you turn that room into a barricade situation where you could deadbolt it, an exterior glass door. Now you've got essentially a safe room that's well equipped and you've got all the stuff right there. People still don't feel good about it. And I remind them, look, as kids, we know we're going to go into the closet. We're going to go under the bed. We're going to have that opportunity to sneak around and find stuff in our parents' room or in the closet or wherever it is hidden, right? So if you're worried about your kids breaking into a safe because it's in their room instead of in your room, I would say you have a parenting issue, not a gun storage issue. You know, and that's that. People don't like to hear that, but that's the truth.
Yeah, 100%.
In their bedroom, in the back of the closet, behind their winter coats, that should not be something that makes you think your kids are going to break into it, unless you also take the very real, very, very seriously, take the real risk that they might break into the safe if it's in your room as well. Right. And that would be a tragedy regardless of what bedroom they happen to break into the safe in, you know.
Sure. Well, that's good. I think that's a lot for new gun owners anyways. And so other than personaldefensenetwork.com, are there other good resources? You mentioned USCCA. Anything else that you've been working on?
United States Concealed Carry Association is a good place to go. The ICE Training Company, icetraining.us, that's the name of my training company, and the Intuitive Defensive Shooting Program. We have hundreds of instructors that are certified in teaching the Intuitive Defensive Shooting Program. We also have hundreds of instructors in the Defensive Shooting Fundamentals Program all across the country, including in New York, and that's administered by the United States Concealed Carry Association. But again, it's a derivative program from ICE Training Company. So you can see, like I said, there's a lot of great instructors on a lot of great topics, not just guns, medical information, security information, unarmed defense, all of that stuff is at personaldefensenetwork.com. That's the place to go.
Cool. All right, we'll have to get you up here to Western New York again and host you for a class.
I'm overdue for that. Let's do it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, and I hope everybody enjoyed this information. And I'll catch up with you later.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Rob.